Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about in terms of question that I got is payment plan. Now, the payment plan for courses in the UK obviously depend on the course itself, and it also depends on the university as well. So for most, but in general, I'll just try and be as generic as possible. In general, you do have payment option in full, so you do have which is what most university would like for you to pay in full. So if you can pay all your fees in full, that is something that is possible. I remember years ago when I came to the country. Obviously I paid deposits. I wasn't able to pay the full payment. I paid deposits, and then I was in class, and then I had this colleague of mine who's like paid in full. I couldn't believe it because I don't even know where the next installment is gonna come from. I was still trying to process the next installment, and it's like talking to my folks at home and trying to see how we can, and this person is like paid in full. So it does happen. If you have that if you're able to do that, please go ahead and pay in full. And universities also give, some give 5, some give maybe a bit more than that percentage of your payments if you're going to pay them in full. So they are quite happy if you do that. But if you're not, which most of us are not, me being the number one of them, if you're not able to pay in full, there are installments that are done. So in general, you have some university, they would in fact, in general, you have most university expect you to pay a deposit fee. So some depending on the course, but the lowest I've heard is £2,000 all the way to like £4,000 or more as deposit. Then you get issued a CAS, and then when you come into the country, for example, let me use a September take as an example. If you come into the country in September, you would then pay either before you come in or immediately as you're coming in, you pay another installment, and then the next installment will be in January, and I think, yeah. So you pay a deposit of like maybe give or take £3,000 to £4,000, and then when you're coming in for, if you're in September intake, you would have to pay one installment. So what is left of your fee will be divided into 2 or 3 installments depending on the university policy, and then you pay the next one in September as you're entering the country or before you enter the country, and then the next payment will be in January, and the last one, if it's a 3 installments after your deposit, will be in April, and that's the end of your payment. Now there are also payment options, and I've known of some university, my university for example, we actually expect you to pay about 50% of the fee before you come into class to start your program, and then the rest in 2 installments. And I also know of a university that expects you to actually pay the deposit of maybe £3,000 to £4,000, and then the rest in 2 installments. Now there's a university that I've heard of which allows you to pay every month. So there's also that option where you give them a credit card or debit card information, and they are able to withdraw. So you set up like a direct debit, and they are able to withdraw every month from that account, which that can be an option if you're interested in it. It's sort of like takes the money in smaller chunks and sort of like maybe make it easier to pay off. The next question that I got here is about working part-time. I've made a video on working part-time, so it will be somewhere in the information card, so for you to have a look, and I'll put it in the description as well for you about part-time job options and how to sort of like support and maintain yourself. Is a lot of money, and my advice would be, if you're not from those really boxed up family, which some of you are from, and that's really fantastic, for the average person that is just going to be struggling to study in the UK, I would suggest keep your mind, or sort of like open your mind to job options. There are different job options. Don't be selective, so long as it's legal and it's going to pay some wages. Why not? It does take off a whole lot of your shoulders while you study. So I would suggest you should watch my video on part-time jobs in the UK. One thing I would also say is that maybe sort of like consult with people and see universities. If you have different universities that offering your course and you're not necessarily certain, you can also look at the location, if you will be able to do part-time work, or how easy it is in that community to get part-time jobs, to help with some of your decision on which university to go for. Someone sent me a message about deferment. Yes, you can defer your admission if you have been given an admission and because of whatever reason. There are so many of them now, one of them being COVID. So I remember last year, one of the assignments that I had was to call up students that we've offered admission, and to see if they want to come into the country, if they plan on coming into the country for their study. Majority of the students had to defer because of COVID and the whole situation that was going on last year. So they asked if it's possible to defer the admission, and I was like, absolutely yes, you could defer it to the next intake. For my course in my university, we do have September and January intake, so majority of them were like, I would like to defer to January of this year, which I obviously confirmed that is possible. So you can defer the admission to the next January or September intake depending on the time of your admission. But keep in mind, I believe you can only defer, it would also depend on university policy as well, but I believe you can only defer for 2 years. After that, you might have to reapply for admission if you have not taken up the offer by then. The next question someone asked me is if they need agents to process their admission. I wouldn't say a yes and I wouldn't say a no. Me personally, when I did mine years ago, I was really low on coin. The cash was hard. It was hard. So I did not use any agents. I did everything myself. I wrote my personal statements. I wrote my app. I filled the form. So I just about did everything myself. And I secured admission. So I wouldn't necessarily say a yes to that. I didn't do it and I still got my admission, but that doesn't mean I would say a no as well. If you're more comfortable and you would want to be more certain, you might go for an agent. My advice would be, if you're going for an agent, try and make sure that you know exactly that what they are doing and you're going to be getting value for your money. It's a lot of money and you don't want to just give it to anybody. You could give me some. And and also, this is sort of like why we do this, creating this channel and making some of the information available. So you might not necessarily need to pay for them. They are free on this platform, but if you do need to, go ahead. So the next question someone asked me is about cheap EU countries, or about EU countries that might be cheaper for studying abroad. That is an option. I wouldn't say a yes or a no as well to that. The reason being, I'm not necessarily an expert in EU countries and their admission process. I do know a few people that are studying outside UK, in Germany, in Norway, and the rest of that. But the admission process I heard is quite different from the UK. So my suggestion would be, if you want to go to those countries, you might have to do a bit more digging in terms of information. The person also sort of like hinted at because of the cheap nature of the courses compared to UK, would it be sort of like a better choice to go to those countries? So I don't know. I wouldn't say yes and I wouldn't say no because of the courses and because of the options that are available to you. Try and look at your scenario. Try and look at the factors surrounding your studying abroad decisions, and maybe that would help you decide. I would always say, and this is something from my own perspective, definitely not a fact, but from my perspective, from my experience, and from things that I've seen from myself and my colleagues when we came into the country, if you know what you're doing and you're really focused on your career goals and your ambitions, I believe UK Masters is actually worth the price. That's just it. You can take it from me. So you can take my word for it. Honestly, UK's Master is worth the price. I paid about £12,000. Yeah, I paid about £12,000 for my Masters. This is just from me, right? I got a PhD scholarship of almost £50,000, and after that I have gotten a job as well where I'm paid certain amounts. So to me, that's an investment, and definitely the payment that I made was a huge a value in terms of what I've gotten afterwards. But you do not, it doesn't just fall on your lap. You have to make it work. You have to do the job. You have to be committed. I just knew I had to be committed, and it's paying off, and I know it will even pay off even more. So yeah, you can check out you can check out countries outside UK, like, you know, European countries, if they are cheaper and that might be within your budget. It's all good. Okay, so I think this is the end of this video. I thank you all for staying back. Please check my other videos on, you know, masters in the UK and the different questions or different things that I've sort of like popped in my head and I've sort of like talked about. I will see you all next one. Bye bye.